Yeah, for a grappling heavy style, he makes it exciting. And
Yeah.
you know what we talk about a lot is the casual fans don't really like to see a fight take place on the ground, but there are some exceptions. What's up, Barnhill family? Welcome back to the channel.
Yo.
So, Nick, one of the UFC's hottest prospects, Islam Makhachev, was back in action last night.
Yeah.
Looked superb in the main event. First time he's ever gone into the championship rounds. Defeated Thiago Moisés by submission. And largely beat him up for most of the fight.
Yeah, it was a fantastic matchup. I thought it was a great main event. And usually when you've got a guy that's an aggressive, known grappler and ground and pound type of artist, you can kind of predict that there's going to be like a grinding out fight, and there might not be as much activity and live exciting action going on. But I think as far as a pure grappler, grappling heavy fighting style, Islam actually put on a pretty exciting performance.
Yeah, for a grappling heavy style, he makes it exciting. And
Yeah.
you know what we talk about a lot is the casual fans don't really like to see a fight take place on the ground, but there are some exceptions. And Khabib was an exception, and Islam is certainly another exception. He makes the ground and pound, the advancement of position, the submission threats, all very exciting.
Yeah.
And while he is similar to Khabib in a lot of ways, the main takeaway from me last night after watching him, especially in the early rounds, is we're looking at a totally different fighter than Khabib. We're seeing a fighter who's a little bit leaner, a little bit taller, much more willing to engage in a striking sort of firefight. We saw some head kicks. We almost never saw Khabib throw head kicks. No. We saw a lot of Thai clinch. He was very dominant against Moises, who is a good Muay Thai fighter, in the Thai clinch, breaking the posture, snapping the head down, landing some knees, and using all that to set up takedowns. So I think we need to start categorizing Islam Makhachev as his own entity, which he is.
Yeah, he is for sure from the same school of Khabib, that Khabib came from, and the Abdul Manapovich, wrestling, beat him down, wrestle with bears from the time you're an infant style of fighting. But they are very different as fighters, and I think that Islam's striking is actually very entertaining. One thing that's actually more compelling when you watch Islam fight is his when he feints and does any sort of changing of the level or throws strikes that you think maybe he's going to disguise to get a takedown going, these fighters, they're not willing to take a chance on any of them. They'll bite on every feint because they don't want to miss the one opportunity where he closes the distance, changes levels, and shoots in on you. And that sort of makes a crazy suspense kind of vibe. Like, he'll back somebody up, and I thought Moises did a good job, but eventually in all the rounds he would wind up with his back against the wall, which is not something you want against a guy like Islam, because as soon as these Dagestani style wrestlers get you to the cage, they're even better at getting you to the ground than just out in plain sight in the center of the octagon. So I was always like, man, Moises needs to really start moving around and get circular with his motion. But he did pretty good with the wall fighting. But Islam, whenever he would get him close to that wall, he'd start to shoot down or feint and throw some shots. And Moises was just biting on absolutely everything. So that adds a cool element if you really like to watch like a grappler, set up their takedowns. I think Islam's somebody that you definitely enjoy watching.
Absolutely. And the thing that really impresses me most about him is the variety of takedowns that he can implement on you.
Yeah.
We just saw Ryan Hall fight, as we were talking about last night.
Right.
Ryan Hall is a phenomenal ground jiu-jitsu fighter. He's got a great leg lock game, but he really only has one way to get you there. He Imanari rolls into like a leg entanglement situation and tries to heel hook you from there or set up another attack from there. And so if you know what's coming, it's very easy to defend.
Yeah.
Now, are there fighters in the UFC that probably could hit a double leg takedown better than Islam Makhachev? Yes, there probably are, but there's not any fighters in the UFC that are currently fighting, in my opinion, who have the variety of takedowns that Islam has. He's got the quick double legs against the cage. He disguises them very well with strikes. From a sort of pummeling position, he's got phenomenal inside and outside trips, a lot of judo mechanics that you see utilized. You see him use the cage and make them bite and bait them into backing up against the wall, which is exactly where he wants you. And then he'll keep you there by implementing those head kicks and hooks to keep you from running away. And he uses all of that to set up his takedowns. So it's really impressive to me, the depth of takedowns that he can hit with precision. And that's what makes him so hard to defend against. It's not that he's got the best double leg in the game or the best inside leg trip in the game or the best no-gi judo in the game. It's the fact that he does it all, and he does it all with precision, and you never know which one's coming, and that's why they're effective.
Very effective. When you think about the best open field tacklers and grapplers in the game, it's usually Division I or Olympic level wrestlers. They can get you down in plain sight without a wall or anything necessary. When you think about the cage work, usually you're looking at like the Dagestani wrestlers. They're really good once they press you up against the wall, kind of slowly creeping you down to the ground with, a trip where you're fighting it to the last second, but then eventually you wind up on your back. And then you've got some of the Muay Thai specialists, especially the guys that are really good with the clinch, that like a Peter Yan, that hits you with these beautiful sweeping takedowns and trips and stuff like that. And I think you're absolutely right. Islam kind of is good at all of them, and he's obviously the best at the up against the wall style takedowns and trips. But he was showing us a whole toolbox full of tricks and lifelong experienced tricks and maneuvers that he's learned over time and training with people like Khabib. It's no surprise that these guys can get every fight exactly where they want it. And, unlike a lot of wrestlers that are very good at getting the fight to the ground but then have a difficult time submitting opponents, they're able to finish the fight with really great submissions. They go with high percentage submissions. At the end of the first round, he did press up and go for an arm bar, but there wasn't quite enough time. But other than that, they're usually on your back like a backpack you don't want to wear, or on full mount, ground and pounding you out. So it's a very high percentage style of grappling that they have. Very exciting for me. I'm not one of those people that screams from the stadium stairs like stand them up, because I do love the ground game. I love jiu-jitsu, grappling exchanges. But I hate stalling. Yeah. I don't like to see somebody hold somebody down, and when they're two guys that are really tired, they just kind of lay there because they're just eating up the clock at that point. But you can't say that about a lot of these Dagestani wrestlers, and Islam certainly you can't say that about.
Yeah, he's the cream of the crop, and I think we would be remiss if we didn't talk about last night's silver medalist and Thiago Moisés. Yeah. I think he certainly deserves a lot of credit. Yeah. A lot of people did not want to take this fight. In my opinion, his stock, even in defeat, went up last night. And let's face it, he was about as tough stylistically of a fight as you could give Islam. Yeah. He's young, he's incredibly strong, very athletic, has power in his hands, so you have to be careful for that. And on top of that, he's a high-level Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt. Yeah. So you're not just going to advance position on him, submit him, and just call it a day that easily. He's going to work the escapes. He's going to work the counters. We saw even when he got slammed by Islam, he noticed that there was an arm inside in the guard when they fell in that position, and he immediately threw up a triangle. Yeah. So he was attempting submissions. He almost had Islam's back at one point. So it was a very tough test. Obviously, it's evidenced by the fact it was the first time Islam ever went to the fourth round, in a fight in his life. So it wasn't just a get him out of there quickly type of guy. But I think Moises, at 26 years old, has an extraordinarily bright future, and I became a bigger fan of his last night, even in defeat.
Yeah, for sure, his stock rised last night. And I think maybe, it wasn't all that competitive of a fight, but if he's one of these guys that can start to string some wins together, I think he's a difficult matchup for a lot of people in the 155 division. If he can, at 26 years old, if he can string some wins together, he's a handsome devil. You know, he looks like $1 million when he takes his shirt off. So maybe we could see him at the top again. And who knows? Rematches are a great thing in this sport, and evolution of fighters is something that we're always looking for. I think there's a lot of growth that he's going to make in his MMA game. And I wouldn't mind, now that he's felt the Dagestani power, now that he knows exactly what kind of storm he's getting into when he gets in the octagon with Islam, I wouldn't mind, 4, 5, 6 years down the road, maybe seeing these guys square up again, potentially for a title. I have a feeling that Islam is going to reach UFC gold at some point, probably sooner than later. And I would love to see them do it again. He did take his back at one point, Moises, that is. And if he didn't jump a little bit too far, he would have maintained that position.
Yeah.
But because they're so sweaty, he jumped a little bit too far, and Islam did exactly what he needed to do, dumped him over the top and stuck himself out. And then in typical Dagestani wrestling fashion, as soon as you go to take their back, if you don't succeed, they jump on your back, and then you're now dealing with the backpack. So we actually saw that happen when Dustin Poirier fought Khabib. Khabib, as soon as he got out of the submission attempt, he threw Dustin right in the exact same submission attempt. So it's kind of like you did that to me. Watch this. I'll show you the even better version of that.
I see your guillotine, and I raise you one more.
Exactly.
And Moises, I mean, he really did a good job last night, even making Khabib think and use his corner a bit. I mean, when Moises had him in that leg entanglement, there wasn't really a submission there, but he was sort of, putting some pressure on the foot and
making good control of the leg.
Yeah, making Islam react, and he even looked over to Khabib at one point. I obviously don't speak Russian. I don't know what the instruction was, but it was sufficient to get him out of the position. But suffice it to say that Thiago Moisés did provide some adversity and did provide some wrinkles that I think will make Islam a much better fighter. Now, after the fight, he called out RDA, and I thought it was beautiful because he said Paul Felder was the one doing the interview. Hey, you took a fight with RDA on less than 2 weeks' notice, so you tell me, why won't he fight me on 3 months' notice? Yeah. I thought it was cool. It's well said. There's not really a good response for it. There's also the potential of a Dan Hooker fight. I think either one of those guys, it's inevitable at this point. Islam is a big fighter, regardless of the number by his name, and as long as these people continue to duck him, he's just going to keep moving up the rankings, just like Michael Chandler, until he finds himself in a title shot. Yeah,
I like both of those fights for him. RDA is a great fight. I kind of am leaning more towards the RDA fight than the Hooker fight. Just stylistically, I think RDA is a little bit more of a evolved version of Thiago Moisés, and
former champion.
Yeah, former champion. He's been bouncing around from the 2 toughest weight classes that sport's ever seen, and he's doing well. He might not be getting his hand raised every time, but he's in wars and really hard fights and competitive fights every time,
fighting for titles at 170.
Exactly, and proving that he's in there in the mix with those guys. So I think it's a great call out. The one thing that people criticized Islam for going into this fight was that we don't know anything about him. He's not much of an entertainer, or the reason he's not quite a draw that people want to see is because he's not saying anything. We don't know anything about him. We just know how damn good he is. I think he did really good on the mic. I think, for the B-roll and the promotional side of his next fight, the you can run but you can't hide type of stuff that he was saying on the microphone was very good. It'll be utilized in his fights to come. I think it was really good. I'm leaning towards the RDA fight. I think he what? One thing I will say real quick. When he asked Paul Felder a question in the post fight, I thought that was cool. I thought you never see.
Hey, I'm asking the questions here. Yeah.
Right. Paul came in with the suit on, and he's asking Paul the question. Then Paul kind of has to shine Islam's wheels for him while he's standing there. He goes, "Because Paul, I got to ask you a question. Why won't he do this? Or why is everybody ducking me?" So I thought it was really cool. He seized the moment in the octagon. Post-fight after the octagon, so I really like it. And also shout out to Khabib. He is still an undefeated fighter, not just as a fighter, but as a coach as well. So 2021 is going well for those guys.
Absolutely. And Makhachev is a budding superstar, no doubt.
That's for sure.
Well, guys, thanks so much for watching this video. If you've enjoyed the content, a like, comment, and subscribe is always appreciated. It helps us out with the algorithm. And if you listen to audio podcasts, we are there as well. So wherever you listen to them, check us out there. Until the next time, guys, have a wonderful day.
Peace.